Well, let me start with a story. On March 23rd, a medical examiner viewed the body of Ronald Opus and concluded that he died from a gunshot wound of the head caused by a shotgun. Investigation to that point had revealed that the decedent had jumped from the top of a 10-story building with the intent to commit suicide. He left a note indicating his despondency. As he passed the 9th floor on the way down, his life was interrupted by a shotgun blast through a window, killing him instantly. Neither the shooter nor the decedent was aware that a safety net had been erected on the 8th floor level to protect some of the window washers, and that decedent would not have been able to complete his intent to commit suicide from the beginning. Ordinarily, a person who starts the events with a suicide intent ultimately commits suicide, even though the mechanism might not be what was intended. That he was shot on the way to certain death 9 stories below probably would not change his mode of death from suicide to homicide. But the fact that this suicide intent would not have been achieved under any circumstance caused the medical examiner to feel that he had a homicide case on his hands. Further investigation led to the discovery of the room on the 9th floor from whence the shotgun blast emanated, and it was occupied by an elderly man and his wife. He was threatening her with a shotgun because of an interspousal spat and became so upset that he could not hold the shotgun straight. Therefore, when he pulled the trigger, he completely missed his wife, and the pellets went through the window, striking the decedent. What an interesting story. When one intends to kill a subject A but kills subject B, so this would be Ronald Opus, in the attempt, one is guilty of murder of subject B. The old man was confronted with the conclusion, but both, he and his wife, were adamant in stating that neither knew the shotgun was loaded. It was the long-time habit of the old man to threaten his wife with an unloaded shotgun. He had no intent to murder her, therefore the killing of the decedent appeared to be an accident. That is, the gun had been accidentally loaded. But further investigation turned up a witness that their son was seen loading the shotgun approximately 6 weeks prior to the fatal accident. The investigation showed that the mother, the older lady, had cut off her son's financial support, and her son, knowing the propensity of his father to use the shotgun threateningly, loaded the gun with the expectation that the father would shoot the mother. The case now becomes one of murder on the part of the son for the death of Ronald Opus. Further investigation, so this thing's got layers. Further investigation revealed that the son became increasingly despondent over the failure of his attempt to get his mother murdered. This led to him jumping off the 10-story building on March 23rd, only to be killed by a shotgun blast through the 9th-story window. The medical examiner closed the case as a suicide. What a messed up situation, right? Who could have imagined how messed up that situation and that story is? The man ruined his life from a fouled up situation and took his life. Ultimately, several things he did led to his horrible circumstances. Have you ever heard the phrase, God's commandments keep you? If you keep God's commandments, they keep you. Have you ever heard that phrase? Show of hands. Has anybody ever heard that phrase? Turn to Proverbs 3 and verse 1. Because ultimately what happened there, and I'm sure if you're following along and you're thinking, what is going on here? Now you can start to relate it to the commandments. Now you can start to go through each element of that messed up story to see, hey, which commandment was broken here? Which commandment was broken there? Which commandment was broken here? And you can start to see a pattern developing. Proverbs 3 and verse 1. It says, My son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them about your neck. Write them upon the table of your heart, so that you may find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. God's commandments keep you. They keep us. They protect us. We receive blessings by keeping them. So the question then becomes, do you keep the commandments because you want to or because you have to? And I think we all battle one side or the other from time to time. That is simply the human condition. And especially when you're a young person, that can be something that you wonder about, you think about. How many people want to have length of days, long life, and peace in their life? Imagine everybody in the room, right? Of course. How many others want the exact same? Those not in the church, those unaware of what God is all about and what He's doing here. Pretty soon, we're going to be the ones setting that example, right? We are trying to practice that here at camp. So today we're going to look at some real-life situations, things that are happening in the world, so that not only, if you weren't informed about them, I mean, teens, you're living it. So that we in the audience, our parents, your support group, those relatives, those in your congregations can also be aware of the things that you're up against. Not everybody has teenagers. Not everybody is dealing with kids in school. And sometimes we need a refresher and reminder of these things so that we can relate and help and motivate all of us to want to keep God's commands. So, Mr. Scarborough, if you could put up the slide, just for everybody on the stream. We're going to keep this slide up throughout this Christian living, so it'll save you time turning to different verses. Okay, we've already heard of the Ten Commandments all the way through a couple days ago. There's going to be some repeat when we're talking about the commandments, when we're talking about God, when we're talking about His way of life. But I wanted to leave these up there so that people on the stream could see these. And now we can have them just locally here. So people on the stream, if you're looking, you should go to Exodus 20 and follow along from there. Keep a marker there. So let's talk about each one of these commandments. Let's just talk about each one of them a little bit. We have the very first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. Okay, that's Exodus 23. Here's a statistic. In 2024, so just last year, pretty fresh, 12% of Americans are agnostic. That's about 1 in 8 people. They're just not sure that there's any God. 9% are not religious at all. 6% are atheist. And 27% of young people really do not believe in a God of any kind. That means more than 1 out of every 4 kids at school or in your classes. How many people, just out of curiosity, go to public school? Okay. Those of you in public school, just maybe an answer from one of you in the audience that goes to public school. Does this seem right? If you're in high school and you're taking science classes and you're taking all of the classes that the schools offer, especially the biology class where they talk about evolution and you have to battle that subject and you have to work your way through that subject matter. Do you hear kids saying, if you don't believe in evolution, you're stupid? Does anybody hear that? Show of hands. That is true. 1 in 4 kids don't even believe there's a God. They're not sure of any God. They don't think there is a God. Yet we know there is one. Yet you're privileged enough to know that there is one because of your parents and their God opening their mind and teaching you and your experiences in life. Turn to 2 Corinthians 4:4. I have to really kind of move here, but 2 Corinthians 4:4. It all starts with this very first command. Because if there is no true God, then the rest of these fall apart. They're meaningless. 2 Corinthians 4:4, it says, in whom the God of this world, and there really is a God of this world, his name is Satan the devil, has blinded the minds of them which believe not. They don't believe in a God. Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. Satan, the devil, has blinded the eyes of 8.1 billion people. That's how many people are kind of walking the planet right now. There's a few people that know of a true God. Some people know of an idea of God. Some people have their concept of what a God might be. But very few people know the true God. In 1 Corinthians 32, you don't have to turn there. If you don't know the true God, it ends with, what is the advantage if the dead rise not? Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. That's the way a lot of people on the planet, over 2 billion people, possibly think. Maybe even greater than that, because there's lots of different religions out there. They have no purpose, no point in life. God has a purpose. He has a purpose for you. He has a purpose for me. He has a purpose for everyone, even those that don't know of Him. How's that? How special is it that you actually know that? And it all stems from that very first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. Turn to John 10. It's very special. God has a purpose for us. John 10. Let's go there. John 10. John 10 and verse 28. And I give unto them eternal life. This is Christ. And they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. Breaking into a thought here. My Father, which gave them to me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. And I want you to think about it like this. Everyone whom God has called and is working with, we got one foot in Jesus Christ's hand, and the other foot in God the Father's hand. And they are holding on to us. They are holding us up. We believe in one true God. That is the true God. There are only two members of the God family right now, Jesus Christ and God the Father. And they are personally holding us up with their hands. It's up to us to jump out of those hands. But they don't want to let go. And they will not let go, and they will not let you fall. Believing in the Creator is the most important thing, because without it, all the other commandments fall apart. All those out there who don't believe in God have no idea that we were made to look similar to God. They have no clue of that in His image and His likeness. They have no clue that He is building a family, that that's what His purpose is. They wander around aimlessly, which is what allows them to continue on doing the things they do, eating and drinking, for tomorrow we die. Okay, the second one. You shall not make unto you any graven image and worship it. Truly. That's just the short form. We got the short forms up there. Since the beginning of time, mankind has been worshiping billions of different gods. We were built. God put it in us. He built in us a desire to worship something greater. But without the knowledge of the true God, we're left to our own devices to go any which way we want. Right? We worship. The Hindus have millions of gods. Buddhists have various gods. They have Buddha. Shinto, Taoism. You have modern Christendom. They speak of a Jesus. They speak of a God, but it's not the same Jesus and it's not the same God that we know. You know, more than 1/4 of teens feel that they have a greater connection. So it could be that same quarter, or it could be a slightly different quarter. Greater connection to social media celebrities and influencers than anyone in their family or local community. Because of real-time posting, followers of influencers, we all know influencers, can't escape it, Feel a sense of intimacy and personal connection because somebody is just constantly reeling their life off in front of you. And as teens, I know how the connection is to our devices. I know. I've seen it. I see it all the time. To cell phone uses. Right? And you guys are more acutely aware of this. 73% of teens, so just under 3/4 of teens and young adults, report feeling closer to YouTubers, Instagram, and X influencers than anyone else. The average teen spends 4.8 hours a day on social media, whether it's Snap, whether it's X, whether it's Instagram. 4.8 hours of their waking day. And most of our waking day is only like 16 hours, maybe. And for teens, maybe it's like 10. Well, not here at camp, right? But at home, I know. I've seen them. They're still sleeping. I'm eating lunch. But do these influencers really care about their followers? They certainly want you watching them. They certainly want you on their feed. They certainly want you liking what they're doing. But do they care about you? If you got hurt, if you were injured, if you were struggling, would they really communicate with you and comfort you? No. No, they would not. Of course not. If you needed something, the only one that can, besides your parents, is the true God that you know. But many others are not connected, and they don't want a connection with a God. Which leads us to the third one. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. That's Exodus 20, verse 7. According to, and there's a lot of statistics in here, according to Business Insider in 2021, okay, this is not too far ago, Americans swear between 80 to 90 times a day. Foul language, 80 to 90 times a day. That means if you're awake for 16 hours, that's 5 to 6 times an hour, or once every 10 to 12 minutes. And I dare say, especially at the school, it's a lot more than that. I hear it all the time. And it's the way people are speaking. It's just, and they don't think very much about that it could be related to a commandment. But we should be thinking it's related to commandment. Just the use of the classic OMG, I'll just use the short, 3-letter acronym there, or what you may see on texts that just gets sent around. It's not just that. That's the third commandment. It's swearing. If you think about it, most swearing comes from either a direct result of something that God has ordained as good and that we have corrupted and used as foul. In Matthew 12, verse 34 and 37, if you just have a pen, you can write them down. O generation of vipers, it says, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things, and an evil man, the evil treasure brings forth evil things. But every idle word that men shall speak, they'll give account of in the day of judgment. For your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned. Words are important to God. Everything about God is holy. He wants us not to use that language. He wants us to be distinct and separate. He wants us to make sure that we take these things seriously. Let's face it. If somebody is on a diatribe and every single word that's coming out of their mouth is one swear word after another, do we find them intelligent? Are they pleasant to be around? Does it make your ears happy? No, of course not. Who wants to be around that? Who wants to be around that all day long? It makes us feel awkward. Oh, is this thing cutting out on me? We just put new Energizer batteries in here. I told you, Duracell or Energizer, which one? Am I taking this off? Okay. Okay. You know, little does this society realize how important it is to God, the third commandment. Everywhere. It's on TV, it's in movies, it's in commercials, it's in it's so prevalent. It's so infiltrating. But God takes it really seriously. He says he will not hold people guiltless for doing so. Right? If we know the true God and understand our purpose, just even involving ourselves in around those types of things is a dangerous thing. And we don't want that. We want much more than that. You want much more than that. So we have to be on guard for that, because that's so prevalent in the world around us. I'm saying statistics of things you've probably experienced, but I just want you to understand how prevalent these things are. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the eternal your God, and in it you shall not do any work. And then skipping down, it says, wherefore the Eternal blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. You know, American teenagers, despite the fact that they're going down in numbers, have the highest rates of drug and alcohol abuse in the developed world. Okay? I hope that's none of us. Pretty sure it's not, but I hope it's none of us. They're far more likely to be killed in violence than their peers in Europe. You know, teen drinking statistics come with an important caveat. About 30% of American 13 to 15-year-old girls reported binge drinking in the last 30 days. Like this 13 to 15-year-old people. More than any developed country. Satan has people believing there's no Sabbath to enforce. It's on a different day. You don't have to do various things. You don't have to listen to things. It's not hallowed. It's not sacred. You can go out and just watch the football game, come back and, you know, drink down your 24 beers and, you know, wake up the next day and go to work. Just pray, pray on the weekend. Right? That's what he has people believing. You know, there are few Sabbath keepers, Jews, Seventh-day Adventists here at this camp even. But they don't necessarily keep the Sabbath in the exact same way that God intended. And we understand that. We understand that. You know, I can tell a story when I was a teenager and the Sabbath, and this is one of those where the commandments kept me. I wasn't the best teenager. I think we've all had our struggles. And we understand that you will too. And my friends were going out, and it was a Friday night. And I wasn't going out. You know, it was part of, I had to stay at home. My dad had a rule. And my friends went out, and they were drinking. And there was other things going on there too, I'm sure. And they got into a situation where they're driving on a side road late at night. There's no lights. And a car came around the corner in their lane, and they just shot straight off the road as the road came to a turn. And they shot into the woods. They were flying through the air at 6 or 7 feet in the air, and they hit a rock. Thankfully, nobody died. But there were 3 people in that vehicle that needed extensive therapy, physical therapy for concussion symptoms. They couldn't remember their name. They couldn't remember what they were doing. Their whole junior year of high school was kind of shot because they couldn't remember things. They couldn't keep things straight. And I know that I could have been in that car with them. But because of the Sabbath day, I was not. And that's an important lesson for me, looking back on it now. Despite whether or not I wanted to be there versus I wasn't allowed to be there, either way, keeping the Sabbath kept me. And that's what your parents want for you, because it's those scenarios that are going through your mind. And maybe some of you have heard of these experiences from others. And, you certainly want to avoid them. You certainly want to not want that situation. It could have been much worse. It could have been much worse. Let's talk about, let's turn to Isaiah 58. Let's do that. Isaiah 58 and verse 13. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. But if you turn your back or turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your own pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the eternal, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, and those teens, those friends of mine, were certainly doing their own things and finding their own pleasure and doing their own words. Then you shall delight yourself in the eternal, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. For the mouth of the eternal has spoken it. The Sabbath day is a sign between God and his people. It takes a lot more to be God's people than just keeping the Sabbath. But the Sabbath is very, very important. I know you all know that. Here at camp, we do keep the Sabbath, and we have some routines, and we have some things. And I hope if there were things that were kind of slipping here or there, that you take the camp as a reset button to kind of reset the way maybe you keep the Sabbath. What I always found interesting is being around other people who keep the Sabbath and just seeing some of their, family traditions that they do on the Sabbath. We always had a nice meal or dessert, or we would talk, or sometimes we'll have a nice little fire outside. If it's not like, middle of the summer in Texas, there's no point to have a fire in Texas. It's already, just go outside. It's like sitting in a fire. I mean, you all experienced that this week. But if you live in a northern state, maybe you're doing that. And it's wonderful because you have this family time and you can talk. And you can talk about the things that really matter in life, like the first 3 commandments or the last 6 commandments that we haven't even talked about yet. That's important things. That's what we want for you. That's what we need. That's what God wants from us. And the Sabbath is really, really important to him. Those people in the world that don't know about the Sabbath, they're missing out, frankly. I mean, and by extension, it goes to feasts. I had friends that grew up in the church, and most of them have left. I can think of my YOU group back in Worldwide Church of God. This is my Bible from when I started YOU. I looked at it. I found it the other day. My dad kept it. I didn't know where it was, but I found it after he died, and I went through his things. And it says, "This Holy Bible is presented to my first son and child, Gregory Evan Kaidannek." My middle name's Evan. Sorry about that. It's supposed to mean well-born one. I don't know. I was there, but I don't remember it. By his mother, Melanie Lynn Kaidannek, and this is October 12, 1985, a Sabbath. The Sabbath, the holy days, keeping those things, is a wonderful thing. You ask yourself, and you ask some of your friends, "Hey, have you ever gone on a vacation?" Some of your friends will say, "No, I've never been on vacation. I've never been anywhere." And all my friends, they would say, "Oh, I missed out on the Sabbath. I missed out because I missed the parties. I missed girls. I missed this. I missed that. I never got to go anywhere." And I said, "Wait a second. Weren't you in Arizona for the feast? Didn't you go to Florida with us? Weren't you on the top of a mountain with us? Didn't we, go down some crazy ride together in New Zealand? What do you mean you never went anywhere? What do you mean you never experienced anything? What do you mean you never did anything?" What has God's Sabbath and His holy days kept from you? Somehow the mind gets there, and it just stalls out. It just stalls out. But God's commandments keep you. The first 4 that I've gone through are ultra important because they show love towards God. We heard that the other day. But we need to understand what everybody is up against, what the teens are up against. Those people in the audience, I don't know if all adults knew that. Some of this was learning for me as I went through some of these news reports, some of these letters, some of these articles. It was news to me, some of these statistics. I see it every single day in the classroom when I'm teaching. My wife and I are both teachers, and we talk about a lot of stuff when we get home. And a lot of it has to do with the things that I've talked about today. I don't know if I'm going to get through the last 6. I may just save them for later on tonight. But God's commandments keep you. We want you, teenagers and young people, we want you to have the best life. The best life is staying alive. The best life is having somebody there who will support you, who will lift you up, one in one hand and one in the other, who will hold you, who will hold tight to you if you do not jump. We want you to have the best life and make friends. Nobody wants a friend that's just constantly swearing at them. To have happy relationships, intelligent conversations. Use the mind that God has given you, that very special thing that makes man much like his Creator. Worship God, fear Him, keep His commandments. You know, that last sentence, for this is the whole duty of man, is covered by one word. If you look at multiple translations, there's many ways to take that. Keeping God's commandments keep you. Keeping God's commandments also help complete you. By Christ's sacrifice, yes, we have reconciliation to God. We hope that one day you too will choose that reconciliation to God the Father. We want you to be baptized. Keeping the commandments, bringing forth those fruits, meet for repentance. Showing God that you're willing to follow Him in the ways that He's given you. That law that overarches everything that God has given us. The 10 Commandments are like an umbrella. Every statute, every precept, every judgment, every command that God's given is under that umbrella. It's based on the principles in these commandments. God wants you to have your best life. He wants you to be complete. He wants you to be in His kingdom. He wants you to be reconciled to Him. He wants you to be baptized. He wants you to believe in the gospel. He wants you to be a part of His kingdom. Keeping the commandments. Yes, you know what? We absolutely have to. But the question is, based on all the other stuff that's out there, all the other pain, all the suffering, all the statistics, just think of this Ronald Opus that I mentioned at the very beginning. Do you want to? Do you want to? That's the question you must ask.
For more information, go to our website at cogassembly.org. Copyright 2025, Church of God Assembly. All rights reserved.